Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for this week's episode. My guest this week is Ben. He runs the Etsy shop HSP Shirts, which he started in April of 2020, and he has had just the wildest success with this. So I'm so excited to talk with him and hear what he's doing and introduce him to you. Ben, thank you so much for being my guest and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, no problem. Thanks, Ijama. I really excited to be here and excited to be chatting today.
So am I. So before we start our conversation, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and how you discovered Etsy?
Yeah, no, for sure. So when I was going to college, so I'm 3 years out of college now, I was getting a business degree and I had to work a business internship. So somebody had reached out to me through Twitter. I went to a pretty small college, just of 1,000 or just over 1,000 students in a small town locally. So somebody who went to or was from my small town had reached out to me and had their own t-shirt business and apparel business, actually an affiliate for the Nebraska Huskers. So got my start.
Corn Huskers?
Yeah.
Whoa.
The Nebraska Corn Huskers. He had the business. It's called Cornborn for 3 or 4 years prior to having me on. I was his first employee and did a paid internship with Tony, and it's his name. And he just helped me a lot. We did have an Etsy shop at the time. Did primarily a lot of sales through Amazon and eBay and then their website. So I learned a lot then. The 2 years I worked there, just kind of fell in love. And then I started kind of my own little side hustle then after he actually sold the business and it moved down into Lincoln. And I just kind of started my own little side hustle at the time. Nice.
So why Etsy?
Yeah, it was kind of a roundabout journey, honestly. So when I started, I originally had just filed for an LLC in 2017. So my business is called Heggie Screen Printing, which is my last name. That's where the HSP shirts comes from. So what I did was just do some shirt orders locally. I bought a heat press, the same equipment we used. I bought screen printed transfers from a company. And I just had, the small college I went to, I did, pretty much all of their athletic stuff for my old coaches that I had played for. And then I did a few other things locally, just kind of some side cash or just a side hustle for a couple of years. And then this year during quarantine, I was working at a school in Yankton, South Dakota, where I went to school. And school obviously shut down with COVID. I was staying with my girlfriend at the time, and I'm like, well, I might as well. This is the time to launch a few online stores. So I just put up an online store, and I know we had some experience with Etsy. That was one of them that, I just got on Etsy and eBay, and I just immediately, I guess, fell in love with Etsy.
Wow. So as far as designs, did you have any idea what you wanted to sell on your t-shirts, or if you wanted to do something other than run a t-shirt or apparel business?
Yeah. So, at the time prior, I was just doing designs. Somebody would come to me, hey, I have a basketball tournament. Can you make me some shirts? So this was the first time when I was like, all right, what shirts would people like? Because I'm not doing group events. These are ideas that I have to come up with. So actually, when it started, if you can remember during quarantine, the big hit at the time was Tiger King. So I remember my first shirt design was Tiger King shirts, like good morning to everybody but Carol Baskin and all these, just a couple other shirts like that, like Carol did it or something. So I just sold those, to a bunch of my friends for like $15 a piece, and they were just like Venmoing me and stuff. And then finally I got organized, put everything up on Etsy, made my own website, put them up on there, and then just gradually, I think, when in listening to other Etsy sellers too, that day you get the first sale or that first cha-ching
Yeah.
notification on your phone that Etsy gives you. I was like going nuts. I was like telling my fiance, now wife, like just running around the house, like somebody bought a shirt, like. But it's yeah, and then has progressed from there.
Wow. Well, you're in good company because I think everyone listening, we all know that excitement of having your first quote stranger customer buy something
Yep.
from you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, regarding the designs, do you do limited runs of your designs or do you just keep your inventory growing and you keep what's working?
Yeah, so I don't have a ton of designs, honestly. I should have more. The amount of time that I spend right now, I could definitely have more designs. Basically, what my thought process has always kind of been is like, what shirt would I like to wear? I make them for my favorite sports team, or I make it for something I think would be cool. Basically, I'm like, well, if nobody else wants it, I'm gonna wear it around. I've made a couple like The Office shirts. I'm a big fan of The Office.
Yeah.
So I just have a graphic designer that I work with. I send them my thoughts, and they send it back to me, and that's pretty much been the design process. I've maybe over the last 8 months since I started in April, have probably done close to 20 different designs. So not a ton, but still a few.
Yeah. And so do you how do you, other than things that you enjoy or that you have an affinity for, do you also do keyword research to find out what's trending and try and follow trends, or you stay away from those?
Sure. Yeah, I think that I know there are some trends that I follow. I don't know that I haven't done a ton of keyword research, honestly. It's just been like the few trends that I've had. I know I did an election shirt, not politically based, um, something like I said, not politically,
Mm-hmm.
but an election shirt. Before there was a big Chicago Bulls Last Dance documentary that came out
Mm-hmm.
went during quarantine that everybody was going for. At that time, I made an unlicensed tee. These are unlicensed T-shirts
Okay.
for that. And so I guess as far as trends go, I've kind of gone after those kind of markets and things. As far as keyword research and stuff, I haven't done a ton of that.
Okay. So, what do you think has contributed to your shop being successful? Because as it sits now, you started this right during the pandemic in April of 2020, and you're already over 700 sales, and you have just the one product, which is, well, I shouldn't say one product, it's just t shirts, but different designs. What has contributed to this success of your product and your shop?
Yeah. So, it's been kind of a crazy year as far as this online selling and e-commerce world has gone. Like I was saying, I remember back to April when just getting the first sales and even just getting everything uploaded. I created my own site on Squarespace, and I remember I started at like 8 o'clock after supper, and then went and just finished at like 5 in the morning and just busted it out all in one
Wow.
night. And I remember by the time it was done, I was just so, happy, and to have that site up and running, and to now here, like you said, it's kind of cool to actually sit back and look at the numbers, with Etsy sales and across other platforms as well. But how it's gotten there is kind of a little bit of a long story, but it's a pretty good story. So when it came out originally, when I started the Etsy store, I had gone after these little niches, like when the Chicago Bulls documentary came out. I just did a generic shirt that said Michael, Scotty, Dennis, and Phil. Those are four names of the players and coaches who were on that. So I sold a few here and there. I think I was up to maybe at the time come this fall, about 150 sales on Etsy. So how the store and everything really took off was a little bit of luck, as well as some just pushing the right buttons at the right time. So I came out with a t-shirt design. This is prior to the election. This is in August. My favorite baseball team is the St. Louis Cardinals. They have two players who have played for them for a long time. One was named Adam Wainwright. The other is Yadier Molina. So they're big fan favorites. Like I said, I wanted to wear the shirt. So I made a shirt that said Wayno, Yadi, their two nicknames, and then 2020. I put it out on Twitter, had tagged one of the two players in it. One of them had liked the tweet. So when I went to bed at midnight, and I got done and finally had it all up and tweeted it out, he liked it at like 4 a.m. the next day. I don't know if he had to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and was searching through Twitter. So Wayno, Adam Wainwright, liked it. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is this real? And then I drifted off back to sleep. I woke up the next morning and was like, did I dream that? And then I had a message at 5:30 when I woke up. It said, I can't get your payment to work on your website. And I didn't. I didn't have it correctly linked through my Stripe account, which I did, and then sold 100 shirts that day and sold out of the first 100.
What? Sorry.
So,
did all these people come from Twitter, or was it just the one person who bought 100?
No, this is Twitter. Yeah, this is, he liked it. And then, the people who interact with his page the most, it shows Adam Wainwright liked this tweet.
Oh,
it shows, here's the shirt, here's the link. And these were, actually, there weren't none of these were Etsy sales. The only link I had put on Twitter was to my website. Okay. So that happened. And then I'm like, okay, I think I have something here. I'll tell the full story. I was going to, so going on then, I reordered a bunch more of the design. Actually, Adam Wainwright liked the idea so much that he actually had a friend who runs a t-shirt company in Georgia. So he had him make Wainwright, Molina, his own design. I originally had come up with the idea not using a namesake or anything. These are unlicensed t-shirts. So he did Wainwright Molina 2020 and brought them for everybody in the clubhouse, all the Cardinals to wear before a game. So that was the best thing that happened all year, because when that happened, I had just made friends with a Twitter account that had 10,000 followers for the Cardinals. All I did was said, hey, I love your account. I make these shirts. I'd love to send you a couple shirts. You run a great account. Sent them to him. He said, I love this. I really want to promote it on my page. And I'm like, oh gosh, he's got 10,000 followers. Like, I could get 100 sales or something. I need to make sure. I'm like, just give me a week before you put anything up. Give me a week. So it's the Saturday when he says that. Then all of a sudden the beat writers for the Cardinals are saying, hey, Wainwright and Molina just showed up in these Wayno Yadi campaign shirts.
That's yours, right?
Well, so these are actually his own design.
Oh, okay.
So this came out. There were no pictures of the shirts or anything. It was kind of, it was funny. And then I thought it was mine. Well, this Twitter account's like, sorry, I can't wait. He put it out there. All of a sudden, people are like, this sounds like a sweet shirt. They're logging on Google. They're going on Etsy. I have them on eBay. I have them on my own site. This guy posted the link to my site, and it got all these retweets from Cardinal fans. He posted a picture of him wearing the shirt. So that day was my brother's bachelor party. And I remember being on his bus celebrating when I had, like I said, up to that point on Etsy, I had 150 sales. I maybe had 50 or 60 on my site. I think within 10 minutes, I had 150 sales. And within the hour, I had, 300 across all platforms. On the weekend, I think I had 350 Etsy sales, 400 on eBay, and 420 on my own website. Within one Saturday. So
What did that sound like with the Etsy cha-ching? It
Oh
must have sounded
gosh.
like a continuous song, I imagine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So if you can imagine it, I'm on a bus with all my friends. We had been celebrating, and I'm like, I woke up the next morning, and like eBay sends things automatically to your PayPal account like
Mm-hmm.
instantly. I woke up the next morning, and I'm like, Is this real?" Like there was 10 grand, or not 10 grand, like on eBay alone was like $4,000,
Oh
and
man.
obviously this isn't profit. This is what people are paying, but it's
Yeah.
sitting there. I'm like, what? Like what now? I had been, for me in the past, a busy week. If I was doing 15 to 20 orders in a week,
Yeah.
like that was, a good week.
Yeah.
So now I had to figure some things out.
So do you do all your own fulfillment?
Yes. Yep.
So
Yeah,
you
I
had
do.
to do all that packing and shipping and printing of the labels and making sure each person got the right person got the right size and everything.
Everything. Yep. So I between ordering the inventory, pressing the shirts, and then folding,
Mm.
packaging, printing, and that was an experience in its own. I remember all week I got in all the supplies as fast as I could. I overnighted everything I could,
Wow.
and it was like a 4 a.m. night every single night, just around the clock. And I'll never forget it. Like on the Friday night, I invited everybody I know to I work out of our garage. We have a detached garage, a nice one that I work out of. And I had my parents drove
Oh.
down. I had my mother and father-in-law, my wife's grandparents. I had,
Oh.
and we were like eating pizza and working till 3 a.m. all weekend. And it was like,
Wait, you imported your labor? You
I
made
did.
them all come and work?
It was a Heggie screen printing sweatshop. It was they were paid in pizza, and we had some good quality bonding time, and busted out a ton of orders. But
Wow.
honestly, the thing that was like a little overwhelming for me for that, it was one thing packaging, printing, pressing,
Mm-hmm.
getting them out the door, but like I didn't realize doing customer service for 900 orders, or what it ended up close to in that 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
It was, just constant, like messages, and like obviously some orders are getting, wrong sizes and things when you're doing that many
Mm-hmm.
orders. And it was a wild week,
Yeah,
that's
I
for
was
sure.
going to ask what kinds of messages were people ask well, what kinds of things were people asking? So maybe what, like correcting the sizes they had ordered?
Yeah, so I mean,
Okay.
initially there was so the one thing, like originally I had set my Etsy ship time. It gives you set your approximate turnaround time. So I
Mm-hmm.
originally had set it for 5 days,
Mm-hmm.
and as soon as I was getting orders, I was just printing them and sending them out that day or the
Mm-hmm.
next business day. So I've had always done that. So then Etsy sends me this message, and they're like, well, their automated message, you need to shrink your turnaround time, and that's not how it's said. This
Oh
is
yeah, I've gotten those. I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, yep. So they're like, you need to cut it down. It's at 5 now. You're pretty much sending things out within a day or two.
Yeah.
Put it at a day or two. So
Mm-hmm.
of course I have it at 2 days. So and I realize now that you can go in and change that after they order. You can postpone that or communicate it in a bulk way.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know that at the time. So I had said that they were going to ship within 2 days. I actually ended up getting everything out within, a week. All the orders came in on a Saturday and Sunday. I got them out by the next Monday.
Mm-hmm.
But people, most of the messages initially were, "Hey, when's my shirt going to ship? When's my shirt going to ship?"
Mm-hmm.
But the people of Etsy are, I don't know, I've just found to be so nice. Like Etsy sellers are, I just said, hey, I had a big influx of orders, and they were also happy. Most of them were like, that's so awesome. Oh, ship it whenever you can. If you
Oh
just, I found, I mean, if you just communicate and let them
yes.
know, uh, most experiences I've ever had are really good.
Yes. Yeah, and there's something that the Etsy search algorithm, the AI does, is if it's calculates that you have this is how long it takes you to fulfill an order, and this is how many orders you have, and then it figures that you might be overwhelmed or swamped. How am I trying to say this without making it sound like the worst thing in the world? But they will alter where and when you show up in search so that you don't get overwhelmed. Did you find that when you had that big swamp?
Yes, and it did that. Yeah, it did. Now that you say that, I remember that because I remember telling people after this weekend happened, like, this went nuts. And then people were looking for it on Etsy, like I couldn't find it. And, like exactly, I had 400 orders in the queue, and I had never more than 4 orders in the queue in a day. And then it was like, exactly what you said. It shut it down. You couldn't find it until I had all the labels printed. And then I printed all the labels in one day. And then all of a sudden it started back up.
Yeah, exactly.
And not to the same extent, but that's, no, that I know exactly what algorithm you're talking about. And it did kick in during that situation.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Yeah, I think not many people know about that, and they wonder why things aren't showing up. But yes, if you go through your fulfillment process, then especially if you use Etsy shipping, then it will readjust and say, okay, you're moving along, we'll continue showing your things, because at the end of the day they don't want and unfortunately people who buy on Etsy are Etsy's customers. They're yours, but they're Etsy's too.
Yep.
And they want them to have a good experience on the site, and so one of the ways they do that is by helping you do, I guess, traffic control or crowd control, if you will, with your orders.
No, and I've thought that too. I've come to, even like coming into the holiday season this year with different shirt designs and things, if I was getting, X amount of orders in a day, as soon as I would fulfill them or print all the labels and then I would go out to fulfill them, they would start coming in as soon as I pretty much cleared my queue.
Yeah.
So then I got to thinking, like, exactly what you were saying. It makes sense that Etsy doesn't want to give you too many at a time, so that their customers aren't getting them in time for Christmas and on normal, on time. Yeah. So I just started printing the labels as the orders would come in. So that way the queue or whatever would stay empty, just printing it from my phone.
Yeah. Good plan.
Yeah.
So essentially what you described, even though in your case it's kind of different because it was a major celebrity that people who are into that particular sport and that particular athlete would follow. But I think essentially what you've described happened is what is nowadays called influencer marketing, where somebody who has a following basically shouts out your product to their following and shines attention on what you're doing and your products and all whatnot, and the end result is sales. And I think essentially that's what happened in your case. Is that and I don't know if you, well, no, I know, I don't think you planned it out that way, but now that you know that, is that a system that you think you can replicate again, perhaps with another athlete and, maybe same sport, different athletes or something like that? Is that something you've thought about trying to do again?
Yeah, no, exactly. I have. So in the new year, what I've been doing, my goals for the new year here, and even the last couple months, I've reached out to a lot more of those accounts and smaller, because everybody now who has a following, they want merchandise. That's how they make their money. So, I've worked more into becoming the fulfillment for a lot of those people. So I've been reaching out, not even so much with my own product, but people who have big followings. I'm like, hey, have you ever thought of a shirt design? I can help you create one. I can, do all the printing, packaging, and sending. I have this Etsy store, and I've had all good reviews. Would you? I can help you out. No upfront cost, and that's kind of in the future. If I want to expand and continue to grow, that's one avenue that I'm gonna continue to explore.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's nice. Would you consider wholesale also? Is that something you've thought about too?
Yeah, I have, and I do some of that, locally. Even for the
Mm,
schools here, I'll print up a couple hundred shirts for them at a wholesale price, and other groups or events or things I want to help out. It's not quite as fun as fulfilling online orders. I like doing that,
mhm.
but there's a little more of a headache when you have wholesale and things. But no, it's something that I still do. And I'm definitely always down to help anybody out at a good rate if they
Yeah.
just reach out.
Okay. Can we talk about your website? And for anyone who wants to check it out, Ben's website, the one that he spent all night and morning building, is hspshirts.com. That's HSP shirts with an S.com. And I will have a link to it in the show notes for this episode. So, Ben, what platform did you build it out on, and how easy was it to create?
Yeah, so I did Squarespace.
Okay.
I, did some research, looked into Shopify a little bit. I know I listen to a lot of podcasts, so it seems like Squarespace was always advertising on podcasts like all the time. So
Yeah.
that one was kind of just hammered into my brain from
Mm-hmm.
their ads. I did just go with Squarespace. It wasn't the hardest thing in the world. I'm not super tech savvy, but I can work my way, you know, through a few things.
Yeah.
I remember by the end of the night, I had a headache the next day. But that's with anything, I somebody with no web design or Photoshop or any, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
use any of that experience, was able to build a site that people thought was, serviceable enough. It's not amazing by any means, but it gets the job
But it
done. Uh,
works. Yeah.
yeah, no,
That's
for
it.
sure.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that myself. Didn't have to hire anything out, and it has been perfect for what I need.
Yeah. How much and so on the shop on the site rather, you have an actual shop, and when people buy something, the checkout is on your website hspshirts.com. They're not being redirected to Etsy to purchase, right?
Exactly. Yep. So the shop is on there. I have, kind of tried to pick and use where I try to send people on different social media
Mm-hmm.
things. So ultimately, and I know that you've, had other people on in the past too, on recent episodes, and other people have said this too. When you have somebody come through your store, obviously they're your customer, like we were talking earlier
Mm-hmm.
through Etsy, that's Etsy's customer, really.
Right.
You're just pretty much fulfilling.
Right.
So when they come to, hspshirts.com, that's my customer. And, there's no fees. I guess, your Stripe account takes 2.5%, whatever it is, for the
Okay.
transaction fee. But as far as, I think they said, one of your recent guests, had said something like each Etsy transaction on average works out to 10% of the cut. That's just a base number,
Mm-hmm.
give or take. But, on your own site, it's 2%. Obviously, you pay, I think I pay $29.95 a month for the domain and the Squarespace fee.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd rather send people to my site. But, that's Etsy is also a very reputable company. Sometimes when you send somebody to your own site, you get on a site and you're like, is this, am I going to get my credit card number stolen? And not that,
Right.
it's through
Yeah.
Squarespace. It doesn't look junky or anything like that.
Yeah.
But people have purchased on Etsy before. They have no problem purchasing on there again.
Right. Oh, good. So you actually pre-answered my question, which was doing a cost comparison, because I think that's helpful for anyone who might be thinking of creating their own website presence.
Yeah.
Is the cost, but then also you addressed something really important was, in addition to cost for you, there's also the trust factor for the buyer. Where do they feel more comfortable, on Etsy, which is a wider known platform, or does your site convey enough security that they feel like, oh yeah, I don't think he's going to rip me off. I don't think my credit card
Yeah.
number is going to end up in some farm
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, another thing that I don't know. I feel like Etsy and your site, for me, I found the experience that they work well in different things. So just to give you an example, like my first, pre this experience where, we talked about influencer marketing
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of luck, I don't get, I maybe pulled a couple strings the right way, but a lot of that was luck, how it blew up.
Right,
But
right.
the first 100 sales or so, I worked pretty hard for, and a lot of that came through like Twitter. And I, just have an HSP shirts, a Heggy Screen Printing Twitter account, and I don't have a ton of followers, maybe 400 or 500 followers, nothing insane. What I was doing though was I had like I had, if I had a shirt design, to go back to what I was talking about earlier, The Last Dance was this big documentary everybody was watching across the country when we were all quarantined in our houses. So there were all these Twitter posts and all these major accounts posting about it. So I would find a mediocre account, not one that had tons and tons of people liking it, but one that had enough traffic getting to the post. So I would reply to that tweet with a saying like, just something clever, something that isn't like, hey, buy my stuff. It was
Right.
something related to their post. Underneath, I said, also, I'm selling these shirts for $17 on, and I would make sure to link Etsy. And then what I would do is you can DM tweets. So I had a group of my friends who I had, people who wanted to see me succeed or wanted to help out, and people I had like, given shirts to and things. I just had a group of, 15 people in this message. And as soon as I would post one of those, I would just DM it to that group and they would just like it. And like I said, I would give them free stuff or a lot of them were just my friends and family who wanted to help out.
Yeah.
And then as soon as anybody clicked on the reply on that tweet, mine would be the top one. It would say something, and I would make sure to link it to my Etsy store. I didn't really want to send people to my own site. If I'm somebody who's looking at that and it's Etsy, well, I know what Etsy is.
Yeah,
I'll click on this. I'm
exactly.
not gonna. My phone isn't gonna explode and it's not a virus or
Yes.
anything.
Yeah.
And I had after a few of those, I would get 4 or 5 sales after each tweet. So it was working well, and that's one way where I felt much more comfortable using Etsy compared to my site.
Okay. And that makes perfect sense. Yes, because I'm thinking, yeah, if I saw a tweet and it was a random link that I didn't know of, nowadays I'm just a lot more cautious about what I click on, especially on the phone too. Because, like you said, I have had that thought before. Like, I hope my phone doesn't blow up if I go to this link, because then I don't know what I would do. But yes, if I see Etsy, I would, or some other well-known site, I would
Yep.
be more likely to just go and check it out. And you're right. So that takes some of the friction away. So is Twitter your, well, it sounds like it is your social media platform of choice?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm a millennial. I have, you know, business aside, even when I was in college and things, I'm a big Twitter guy. I like to scroll through my Twitter feed. That's the social media platform I spend the most time on.
Yeah.
I know, like my mother, she is Facebook. Like
Right.
that's not really my thing. And that's kind of carried over to my business pages, the ones that I'm more familiar with, the apps I like to spend the most time on. And that's one thing I found awesome about, your podcast and other Etsy sellers is so many people have success through Facebook, through Instagram, through
Mm-hmm.
Pinterest.
Mm-hmm.
And I really I've learned a lot. I need to really dive into those places because I know that, it's proven to work, that you can get sales through there.
Yeah.
I haven't, I'm not real comfortable with those. I have business, HSP shirts is my thing. I have it on Instagram and on Facebook and have yet to make a Pinterest page, but
Right.
um,
I'll
yeah,
tell you something I've learned from all people I've talked to who have found success on various social media platforms. The one common thread is the ones who have found the most success have tended to pick one and just really go deep and get really really good at it. And
Yeah.
so, if Twitter is where you're having a good time and success, stick with that. You're
For sure.
rare in that I hardly ever have talked with sellers who have found much success on Twitter, but I think it works for you because um one, there's the engagement from the people whose products I think appeal to who your products appeal to, and two, don't underestimate the importance of linking. You can't do that in Instagram. Instagram won't let you link to your shop, to your products the way you can on Twitter. And it seems like the when people see your product and they like it and they want it, they go and then they get it. With Instagram, there would be a stumbling block with that because you can't do it that way on Instagram. Facebook, yes, but then the crowd there is different,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great advice. Yeah. Um, and like you said, I don't know. Like the most this what I spend the most time on is Twitter. So
Yeah.
when I'm tweeting on my business page, I feel comfortable. And I post, I make sure I post at least a little bit so the pages aren't dormant. My last
Yeah.
post isn't, 6 months ago or something like that. But when I'm on Facebook or even Instagram a little, like I just don't feel that comfortable. I'm like, what do I? And on Twitter, it just comes more natural. I feel
Yeah.
like, and it, has just worked out. And I think that is really good advice to just, that's what I feel the most comfortable with. That's where I've had the most success with. I
Yeah.
should really just be spending my time continuing that rather
Yeah.
than,
Do what you're doing there. It's
yeah.
working. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, with your website, hspshirts.com, did have you or did you do any type of search engine optimization to drive organic traffic to it, or you primarily use just the traffic that you push there yourself?
Yeah, I don't do, I've done some SEO. Within each product, you can set your SEO. I don't feel like I get a lot of sales from there. A lot of them come from, well, I mean, I shouldn't say that because I think, the bulk of the sales I've gotten from the website came after that, Yachty Wayno shirt. I think a lot of people were just Googling it because it was talked about. There was even another instance when the Cardinals were in the playoffs playing on ESPN. They were during the game had talked about this Wayno Yachty 2020 shirt. Well, they weren't specific. They're not telling you where to buy them. So this is on ESPN in front of millions of people in a playoff game. And I'm like, this is my idea. This is really cool. Like Wainwright obviously blew it up. It wasn't me who is the reason it wasn't on ESPN. But then people were like Googling Wayno Yachty 2020 campaign shirt. And then, up would come hspshirts.com. And then a lot of sales have funneled in that way. I do send like through Facebook and, a lot of the stuff from Facebook comes from, family and friends and people who follow my personal page. They're like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'd like to support him. And they'll buy from, hspshirts.com. I found a lot of sales come that way. As far as organically, maybe some come from SEO, I guess. It's hard to track, but
Does Squarespace give you insights into your traffic, like analytics, or no?
yeah, they do. They give you your visits and where they're coming from. It's not the most, they'll tell you. I don't know. I found it kind of confusing because there's times where I post a tweet, and if I do link my website to it, I know that these are coming from Twitter. If I don't have any sales on it for a week and then I post a tweet and then 5 sales come in the next 15 minutes, I mean, I know that's where they're coming from, and it's not showing as coming from a social media. So I don't know how accurate it is. I will say it does give you, every click, what they're clicking on. It tells you this person, it gives you their IP address and where they're located. It'll tell you what pages they click on. So that's been helpful to see how many people are clicking around, looking at different pages and things. So that's been kind of cool.
Okay. Has that helped to inform you about maybe what products are more interesting to people who are coming to your site and maybe just doing more of those?
Yes, it has. A lot of people, what I thought was kind of cool, would come to the site and they would come for the design that they heard on ESPN or saw on Twitter, this Wayne Yachty shirt. And then what I really have found is that what they do is they click the link and then they look around and they're like, is this legit? So I've tried to make the other pages. Make sure I have my story told, this is through Squarespace and things. And then I found that they go back and then they'll, buy the shirt. So it's not like they're just clicking on it and throwing their credit card information and going. They're scoping it out, making sure that it doesn't look janky. And I think one advice I had heard from somebody at some point was just make it as, just don't make it spammy is what they're like. Just picture yourself, the consumer, clicking on this and make it seem like it's not spammy. Don't tell people buy now, just make it feel natural and, look like a normal site. Yeah. And I think that advice has helped.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. And I do the same thing too. If I'm buying from an e-commerce site and I'm not familiar with them, I always will go and check out, well, okay, who is this? And
for sure.
If I get a human vibe, then I feel more comfortable.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And I've looked at so many people's websites and things and just looking at what other people are doing. And I know there are some people who will have 50 shops and they have different websites for each. And they're just like, I know that is one way to get sales, but if you're just, it just feels spammy. And I'm like, who is actually buying this? Like, are they, I don't know, some of the sites just don't feel real comfortable. If there's only one page, one item, and that's it, it feels a little, it just doesn't feel quite as authentic. And I don't know how I would feel about throwing my credit card information on there.
Exactly. So Ben, what does a typical day look like for you? How do you manage your time? What things do you do first? What do you do next?
Yeah, so that was a big one. So in 2020, I did not expect this. We're chatting here. When we're recording, we're just into the start of January. But in 2020, I, upon all this happening, had my wife got pregnant. We got married. We had a baby. We bought a house. I've changed jobs and lived in now 3 different towns. So it has been, when I'm working on Etsy, I've also have a job. So when I'm working on Etsy, it's usually between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. So when lately it's just been fulfilling orders. That's kind of why I know the January time for a lot of the e-commerce world is kind of the take a breath time. I remember from when I was working my internship in college, we were super busy in December, and then January it was kind of nice to just like take a few breaths. And, now's the time I'm going to work on, getting everything caught up for tax season, working on different things. My website definitely needs some work. I haven't really touched it even that much since the first night I have built it, or even my Etsy pages and descriptions, and I need new items. And now's kind of the time where I can do some of that rather than just pressing and printing and shipping and responding to messages.
Okay. So, and you handle everything, right? All yourself still. Do you have any plans to maybe outsource some tasks, or right now it's enough for you to handle?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something I have thought about some. I don't know that's a goal for me this year. That would be really cool if it got to that point. I think if it was getting to that point, I would maybe look at going, taking less hours at my job and, slowly weaning away from that. I'm not sure, right now that it's not something that I have really thought too much about, or I think I have a long ways to go before I'd get to that point. But it's, I know a lot of people have gone that route, and I have definitely, been taking notes and thinking about that if that time would ever come,
Hmm.
but I don't know that it's there right now.
Okay, that makes sense too. I just talked with Christina Springer. At the time we're recording this episode hasn't aired, but at the time
Yeah.
this will air, it will have
Yeah.
aired.
Yep.
And she does so much. She does gallery shows and she runs the Etsy shop and she has, her artwork and creations just in different places, and it sounds like it's a big operation, but she enjoys doing it all. And I think for some people, when it's not overwhelming, it's doable. You don't
Yeah.
have to, scale to, bring on employees or
Yeah.
even contractors, especially when you enjoy what you're doing too and it's so creative.
Yeah, no, and I would love to have somebody to, because the thing that's hard is, like I said, we have a newborn, a 6 month old, and if you're really gonna do this and you're gonna do it right, I mean, it's not just like I'm gonna do it between 10 o'clock and 2 a.m. Like you're getting messages during the day.
Yeah.
I have to find little times where, I'm checking my Etsy store, seeing where orders are. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like and there's
It's not
times where
contained.
no, exactly. And there's
Yeah.
times where, if I'm with my daughter and like I'm getting somebody asking questions who's wanting to purchase a product, it's like, oh, like I can't not answer this,
Yeah.
but like I really don't want to be doing this right now,
Yeah.
but so I would love, if but then if you do hire some of that out, then I need to be getting X amount more sales. I need to put in more time anyway to get to that number and do more marketing and things that way. So, I don't know. I still enjoy it overall,
Yeah.
obviously, but there are some parts that are tough.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
When it came to determining how much to charge for your products, how did you land on the final number? I would assume, having done an internship, you had some insight into pricing and coming up with a pricing strategy. But
Yep.
what can you talk about that?
Yes. No, I'd love to. That's a great question. I've had an experience with that. So I started at selling shirts for $15 a pop, $15 free shipping.
Mm.
And my wife, everyone's like, that is way too cheap. That is way too cheap. And I'm like, no, and I've heard other sellers come on your podcast and other sellers talk about things, and everybody, it seems like, it's similar. At first, you sell yourself a little bit short and you think of what's it costing goods, but you don't so much factor in your time. And I wasn't doing that, at $15 a shirt. Yes, if you look at the goods and the price of just the shirt and what it, the shipping and things, there's profit, but I'm also spending, staying up till 3 a.m, printing a big batch of orders or something. So I have slowly grown. I've gone from like $15 a shirt to certain designs now is where I'm set at. I have at like 18, and then some of the more multicolored things are up to like right at $20 a shirt. And I honestly, when I did that jump, I was super like nervous and almost sketched out. I'm like, are people really gonna pay for this? I'm like, that's and I have seen no change.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there might be some, I guess. I'm sure there's been a couple people that have maybe said, hey, this is too much, but I don't know. I have toyed with that and really spent a lot of time thinking about that. And honestly, looking back on it, the way that I did it, I'm not so sure was wrong either. Because thinking about it, if I go charging $18 and $20 a shirt right away, if I don't have any reviews, any sales,
Yeah.
why is somebody going to pay that when they can pay that and buy somebody who has, 100 reviews and 500 sales or something like that? So starting out lower and then working my way up, now that I am a reputable seller and at least have a history of, happy customers, then, I can charge more because maybe they'll feel like, it's trustworthy and that's a reason to buy from me rather than, maybe somebody else. doesn't have to go off the price factor. So maybe it wasn't the worst way,
Yeah.
but that's kind of how my experience has been as far as pricing goes.
Okay. And I figure if someone had a problem with the price, I mean, rarely will people reach out and say, "I don't like your price." They just won't buy. So then you'd never
Exactly.
know anyway. So
No, you're right. Exactly. No,
yeah,
I no, I've never gotten any of those
yeah.
messages.
Um, how or have you ever had to deal with any negative feedback regarding your products or the service, and if so, how did you deal with that? How did you handle that?
Yes. Yes, is that is a great question because this just came up within the last couple weeks.
Oh.
Surprisingly, I survived the fiasco of um, having from my mother-in-law to my grandma-in-law to it seemed like my dog out there printing shirts and training everybody in the night and eating pizza till 3 in the morning and busting out shirts. We survived that. I had to send out some shirts that were wrong size and things, but everybody, there were I think every review from that was 5 or maybe a 4-star, maybe, but pretty much all 5 stars,
Mhm.
and got really good feedback. Loved the shirts. So this Christmas season now, the rush leading up to the holiday season, I've gotten 2 negative reviews. So
Straight up
whenever,
negative?
well, straight up 1 stars, just
Oh,
boom, no messages, just you got left feedback and
oh.
a 1 star. So how I've handled that, I've heard and other people's experiences and things is one thing I found out with customer service is responding right away has always
Mhm.
been something that's helped me. So as soon as I get the message, and this person, when I got the review, they hadn't messaged me. So I got a 1-star review and they said the print is a great quality. The shirt is great quality, but they just don't work well together. So I
What?
don't really know what that means, but that's fine. That's their opinion. They left a 1-star review. Immediately when I got that review, I went on and Etsy makes it super easy to refund a transaction.
Yeah.
So it was a $20 shirt. So I just immediately refunded their $20, sent them a message literally a minute after they had sent the review and said, "Hey, I'm really sorry you didn't like the shirt. I apologize." And really, I am. If somebody's gonna pay $20, it's probably a Christmas present. I do feel bad that they didn't like it. So here's your $20 back. Keep the shirt. It's no problem. Just have a happy new year. And I apologize that this happened. And right away they sent back and they're like, "That is so cool. That's great customer service. I just changed my review because of your great customer service," and
Oh,
they bumped it to 5 stars. So I was like, awesome, like
yeah.
that. I went from being like distraught to, like crisis averted.
Yeah.
Well, then somehow the next week, 2 weeks later, I get another 1-star review on a product that I've had no issues with ever. And they just said that they didn't like the feel of the shirt, which I don't know. What do people always say is they like the quality. But like I said, to each their own. Did the same exact process and actually didn't hear back from them or anything, which is fine. If they didn't like it and they were so dissatisfied that they left a 1-star review, I really don't believe that they should have to pay for it anyway. So I guess if you're listening, don't buy a shirt and leave a 1-star review because you'll get it for free. But
Yeah.
that's the only issues I've had with on Etsy, at 700 and whatever sales.
Yeah.
If there's only been 2 people who have had an issue, I've been pretty fortunate.
Yeah, that's not bad for, over 700 sales. And it's funny you said that because it did cross my mind that, well, what if somebody reads that person's review and says, so if I just leave a 1-star, I could just get my money back. I mean, most people aren't that way, but that did cross my mind.
Yeah,
That
I know.
what if,
Yeah,
there's always
in mine
someone.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought the same thing too, but I don't know. The Etsy community, it just seems like it's so like cool, and buyers and things, and even like other, some other sellers that I've talked to. I don't know. It just seems like Etsy, even compared to, I do sell on eBay.
Hmm.
It just seems like Etsy, the customers, the messages the conversations you're having, even compared to like eBay, it's night and day. I don't know what it is, but Etsy, it's just what has made me really fall in love with that platform compared to others.
Yeah, I hear you. It is a different crowd than other platforms. Ben, so you're still, I guess, what would be considered relatively new to the Etsy platform. So I want you to talk to another seller that's relatively new as well, or new. Yeah, new. Let's just say new. What encouragement can you give to that person who maybe hasn't hit their stride the way you have, hasn't quite figured out how to find their customers and get them to shop with them? What advice or encouragement would you give to that person right now?
So what I would tell them is that, when you're starting, in my experience too, it was, you know, yes, it's awesome when you get your first sale. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
really cool. But there's times where you're going to get discouraged and even burned out. The thing that I've heard the most and the best advice that I was ever given is consistency. Whether you had an awesome day and you heard the cha-ching notification 40 times, or if you're haven't got a sale in 3 days, it's just like keep showing up. There's never get like they say, never get too high and never get too low,
Mm-hmm.
and just keep working at it. And I think that if you don't give up and if you spend the time and even just do a little free marketing, anywhere, just reaching out to people, eventually it seems like Etsy gives you your chance. They'll throw you a few sales, they'll put you in front of some people. If those are
Mm-hmm.
going to go well, you get them out, and it's going to continue to increase. It's like I said, I know how other shops are. I got super lucky that a bunch of sales came in one time and had a good experience with those transactions. So it maybe, it definitely went quicker than I know some shops, but
Right.
so it's easy for me to sit here and say that. But at the same time, I've gone through dry spells and things too. And I think the best advice for anybody starting is just consistency. Keep putting in, whether it's 20 minutes a day or if you're spending an hour or two at night, just
Mm-hmm.
keep spending that time, and eventually it's going to come no matter
Yeah.
what. It's just going to.
Yeah. Thank you. That is very helpful and encouraging too, because yes, I think the first thing we want to do when things just aren't going the way we we like is to either back off or give up, and neither of those is going to get us where we need to be. So that's very helpful.
No, and I mean, you can learn. There's so many different tools. If I like I was saying, when I started, granted it was during quarantine and I was bored out of my mind, living with a pregnant woman. So I was, looking for activities and ideas and things. But I remember just like taking in as much as I could, going back and listening to all these old podcasts. There's plenty of people blogging, plenty of YouTube videos to watch about Etsy success and how to get
Yeah.
traffic and on any platform. And if you just follow some of those simple advice and how to, have good pictures and, all those things that you can read and find about, it comes, you're going to get some sales, and it's just, you got to keep, just stay after it.
Yeah. Speaking of tools, are there any tools and resources that you found particularly helpful in just growing your Etsy shop or even your website?
Yeah, as far as tools, what one thing that I have just started doing is like scheduled, or I've just been looking into doing a scheduled, um, like social media. I
Mm-hmm.
know that that's one thing that a lot of people have talked about, that what I find such a hard time doing is staying on these social medias, and some of my social media platforms are hard to stay up on. So I think that right now what I'm looking into is finding um, a place where I can, just schedule the different social media posts and things with Twitter and Facebook. So I think that that's one thing that right now I'm exploring. As far as other things, I don't use a ton. The one thing I guess that I really, really rely on is ShipStation. It, integrates all your accounts. Right now I sell on Etsy, eBay, and my own store. And then I am going to get into Amazon here in 2021. And that has been super helpful with, all your orders come in daily, and it integrates them all together. And without ShipStation, I'd be lost. But that's the big one, I'd say.
Oh, okay. So when you process your orders from all the different platforms, and let's just say Etsy in particular, if you process your shipping through ShipStation, does it send a message back to Etsy to let them know that it's shipped, and then it will send that email with the tracking information to your buyer?
Yep, that's exactly how it
Wow.
works.
Okay.
Yeah, so you just ship it on ShipStation like normal, and then it will, whether it's Etsy, eBay, or even my own site, it automatically sends that email with the tracking number. No problem. It integrates perfectly.
Okay. Do you have a special inventory management program that you use, so you know if you're selling on one platform, just so you know you have enough in stock elsewhere?
Yeah, I don't, but Ijama, I'm telling you, I need one terribly.
You need to
It's
get one.
I how my inventory went in 2020 was I go out to the garage and I ship until I'm out of mediums, and then I order them that night, and then thankfully the supplier has 24-hour shipping. So if I order them the next, they're here the next day.
Yeah.
So that's nice. But it's yeah, like we're saying, I've only had my shop since April. I definitely have so much to learn, but
Yeah.
Anybody out there who thinks that they would have one that would help me, reach out. I'm, like I said, HSP shirts. I would love to hear from you. What works for you on any, inventory is something that I am not organized on.
So, sometime last year, and I don't know how it works, but they explained the system. I had a conversation with Cian and Charlotte of Ever Blooming Originals, and they use a tool called Airtable. And it sounded very intricate, but they have got it to do what they needed to do. And it sounds like something that might work for you, because you have because the way your inventory is, you have different things you put together to make your product. From your pricing relies on, like how many different inks, different colors you use, and whatnot. And theirs was similar in that they make wreaths, but because there are many different components to the wreaths, it calculates based on how much of each thing, the pricing and all that. But then I think also inventory as well. So I'll link to that episode and see if that helps you.
Yeah, please do. I would love that. That's something I'd really be interested in.
Okay. Yeah. And I know they Airtable, Sienna had said that they have what do you call them? Consultants that will help you get set up to make it do what you need it to do.
Cool.
But I don't know about pricing, so that might be the only hitch is pricing.
Well, no, it would be something to look into, though. No, I'd love that.
Okay, good. Do you have an Etsy shop shout out? So this could be another seller that has helped you along the way, or just whose work and whose products you particularly like and enjoy, and you just want to shine a light on them.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I, love listening to the show. So I made sure I had a few Etsy shout outs ready to go. No, a couple of the stores, or a couple of my friends that I really like what they do. So the designer that I work with, her Etsy shop is XOXOKC Design. have really, she does a lot of design work outside of Etsy.
Mhm.
She is on Etsy, and I think that she is so talented and really good. But she, yeah, doesn't spend a ton of time on Etsy. So I think if you went to her page and tossed her some favorites on some of her items, it might help inspire her
Oh,
to
nice.
get her going. No, but the other one that I like is Heatless Curler is one that has really done well in 2020. It's a friend of mine who we've kind of, during quarantine, we're starting it together at the same time.
Oh,
So
nice.
that was kind of nice to have somebody starting the Etsy journey with, and they have had a really good year too here in 2020. So that's another Etsy shop shout out. But those are two accounts that I've really enjoyed working with.
Oh, good. Okay, so just to make sure I link to the right shop, XOXO, is it KC the letters or KC the name CASEY?
Yeah, so it's KC like Kansas City or it's her initials, but yeah, KC.
Okay, so it's XOXO KC Designs
Yep, design. Just
Design.
singular. Yep, you got it.
Okay, all right, and Heatless
She's the one who
Curler.
needs the likes and send her a
Okay.
message and tell her how cool her shop is so that she puts some more time into Etsy.
For sure. Okay, so I will link to both these stores. Please go check out what they're doing, and check out their products. Give them some likes for you. And actually, if you like what they're doing and you want to support them, please do and let them know that Ben sent you.
You bet.
Ben, what's the best way folks can stay in touch with you or connect with you after this?
Yeah, I honestly would love to hear from anybody. Like I said, I'm new in the Etsy world. I have not been at it very long, but I love, like this podcast is awesome. I'm really honored to be on here. You do such a great job, Ijama. I
Thank you.
can tell you I learn from every single podcast, and I'm not just saying that. It's helped me so much, and I like to take in as much information I can from anybody, so even if it's just, I learned something new from each podcast. So I would love to, if you'd reach out to me on pretty much everything, I'm hspshirts.com.
Okay.
You can, or HSP Shirts on Twitter, on Instagram. You can find me on either of those. If you want to email too, you could send me an email. It's just ben@hspshirts.com. Yeah, any of those ways. I will say that I don't know if you've found it, I guess obviously not. You talk to, Etsy shop owners each day, but I find it to be like almost a lonely world a little bit
Yeah.
with, like when I'm talking to my friends, it's not like, hey, how's your shop doing? Or things like
Yeah.
all my Etsy experiences, all my, e-commerce experiences, it's there's not really anybody right now that I have that can relate. Even when I try to tell my wife about it, she's like, okay, cool, like so if anybody even just wants to talk,
Yes.
I would love to hear from you.
Yes, I hear you. I think we all
Yeah.
experience that from the people in our lives. The people who are nearest and dearest to us sometimes just don't get this one thing that we're really, really into. And that's why I enjoy this community and connecting all of us, because then we have ourselves too.
Exactly. Yeah, completely agree.
Yes. Ben, thank you so, so much for being my guest on the podcast. And this is just, when this comes out, you'll just be rounding up to year one. I would love to catch up with you and see how your year two goes, and what other, you know, uh, interesting ways you find to just, blossom and bloom your Etsy shop. So can we talk again?
Oh, I would love to. Yeah, no, thank you. This is so cool, and it came at a perfect time. The Christmas season just finished up, and it was busy, and I had some major burnout. So being able to talk to you and talk about Etsy and things has fired me back up. So thank you
Nice.
so much.
You are most welcome. And I thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you want to connect with me, please go to convome.com, and there are various ways you can connect with me there. If you want to send me a message, there's a contact form. If you want to be my guest, there's a Be My Guest page on the site as well. And if you are at the point where you want to build out your own e-commerce shop, Ben used Squarespace, which I will link to so you can check that out. And then go to my services page. I have a resource sheet for if you want to use Shopify for that. And also on Instagram at Etsy Conversations. Until next week, I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and I will be back with another episode for you then.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.